And it's
Check something in here.
10:01 a.m. My name is John Martin. I'm Chairman of the Kane County Development Committee, and I call that committee's meeting of Tuesday, March 15th to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Brown,
Herman here.
Ford present.
Iqbal,
Iqbal present.
Kenyon,
Here.
Moniki,
Present.
Fraz.
Here.
Caius,
Is present.
Pirog, Shepro, Martin.
Martin present.
We have a quorum.
We have before us draft minutes from the February 15th, 2022 meeting. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Ford moves.
Berman second.
We have a motion and second. And do we have comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll for approval.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Moniki,
Yes.
Fraz,
Raz, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Minutes are approved. The monthly financials are available to us in our packet and otherwise with the finance department. Public comment. Do I have does anyone in the public wish to speak this morning? Hearing no response, I'm assuming we have none. So the next matter would be item 5, our building and zoning report. Mr. Van Kerkhoff.
Good morning. And for building and zoning report this morning, things are picking up as they typically do in the spring season, and people continuing to invest in their properties. Also means that people get outside and see what they don't like in their neighborhood or other neighbors' property. So code enforcement calls are also up. Our new code enforcement building inspector, Kurt Baum, is working out really well. All 3 of our inspectors are working, been working the last couple of weeks doing building safety checks for the liquor license process, make recommendations for the liquor license renewals. So those have been keeping them busy as well. And with that, I would just entertain any questions anybody has.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Van Kerkhoff? Hearing none, thank you for the report. Let's proceed with zoning petitions, the first being number 4588.
Okay, good morning. Our first petition is number 4588. This is requesting rezoning from F District Farming with a 5-year interim special use for storage, maintenance, soil application, and conditioning equipment to an F2 district agricultural related sales, service, processing, research, warehouse, and marketing with a special use to accommodate the same business. This is the property's location on the 2040 plan map, which is in the agricultural area. It's located just to the west of the village of Hampshire. You can see that in the area to the gray. On the zoning map, you see the existing interim special use, which has been reapproved, I think, at least 2 or 3 times for continuing to use the existing agricultural farmstead buildings for an agricultural related use. There is an F2 immediately across the street, but it's predominantly around other F-zoned agricultural uses. Here it is on the aerial. Again, you can see it's basically comprised of an existing farmstead surrounded by farmland. Here's another close-up. Another close-up of the site. The site does have an existing residence, and he has 2 agricultural buildings. You can see some of the equipment parked there. The company that has been using the site and has had the interim special use all these years actually takes material from a water reclamation process, or organic material, and then that is sold and delivered to farmers.
Thank you.
For use on the farm fields. Here is their site plan for their equipment storage, use of the buildings, and use of the home. Staff recommended stipulations that they have, the site has had a stormwater permit issued in 2016. Additional improvements added to the site since January 2002. No new improvements are proposed by the petitioner. Kane County Division of Transportation wants to verify that the right-of-way 60 feet from center line has been previously dedicated. The rezoning will allow this continued business use on the property instead of having them renew every 5 years. Staff recommended to the petitioner that they go ahead and get an F2 since this has been a good situation for that use. And Center Grove services are used by Kane County municipalities and our farmers. So it really is a synergistic business for our communities. Regional Planning Commission was not applicable. Zoning Board of Appeals approved with a recommended stipulation, and it's before you this morning.
Motion, please.
Caius move.
Mr. Caius moves.
Fraz second.
Mr. Brown seconds. We have comments or questions?
Just a quick question. I'm sorry, Mark, I might have missed it. How big is the parcel? How many acres?
It is 5.4347 acres.
Okay,
So it's just over 5 acres.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Fraz?
When I first looked at this, I was a little concerned because it looked kind of like a heavy construction company, but yes, Synagro, it is an ag-related business. And also, it's important to note this is a 5-year interim special use. So if something does go south on this, the staff would have options in the future. So I would support it.
Mr. Van Kerkhoff?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for Mr. Fraz, at this point, they're not requesting an additional 5-year interim special use. They're requesting F2 zoning.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
for
they're
the
going
ag-related.
from special use to F2?
Correct, yeah.
Thank
Instead
you.
of having them come back every 5 years. In this case, we feel like they've been a good, they proved themselves as a ag-related business and a good operator.
So we have a track record with them and staff's recommending, so I'll support it.
Correct.
Objectors?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Caius?
Caius. Yeah, on the item 2 there, the stipulation is that no outside storage will be associated with building B. I guess I was a little confused. B is the southernmost building, is it there? And is it a house? Is that why they?
Building B is on the east side of the property. It's got the red hatching.
Yeah,
And that stipulation was there because they have used that for inside storage for a person not related with the Center Grove business. So the stipulation is just to make sure that that doesn't develop into another ancillary business that's not part of Center Grove.
thank you.
Well, and it's important to note that this is in place and operating successfully. So any other comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Woniki,
Yes,
Braz,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Motion carries. The next being petition 4589.
Good morning again. The next petition is 4589, the Thomas Family Trust rezoning from F District Farming to E2 District Estate Residential. This is the parcel in question. It's located in predominantly ag area for the 2040 plan. This is a portion of the 2040 land use map. But this is a little bit unusual area where you see it's countryside estate on the future land use plan, which roughly defines an area where there's a subdivision to the southwest, some residential use properties that are right at the intersection of Thomas and McDonald Road, and then the subject parcel portions of it, as well as a small portion of the parcel to the south. So keep in mind with the 2040 plan map, because the county covers over 500 square miles, The approach has been to kind of generalize the land use line. So sometimes when you get a small area like this, the bubble drawing around it is not meant to be exact or follow parcel lines, but to suggest the trend and character of the land use area. You'll see this illustrated more in the aerial as well. So here you see the zoning map, and you can see the zoning in this area reflects those residential land uses in a variety of lot sizes, some of which were created back in the 50s and 60s. And here you see on the aerial, and again, the area where most of the residential uses are wooded areas that were converted to residential uses, were not probably used for farming at all at some point. The subject parcel is part of a larger farmed parcel, and it's the existing farmstead. Here it is on the aerial. And here's a close-up. So typically, if this had been in the 2040 plan map, if it had been in the agricultural area, you would have seen this come through as an F1. But one of the stipulations in the zoning ordinance is that F1 zoning is only eligible for properties that are planned for agriculture in the 2040 land use map. So in this case, their request was not consistent with the countryside estate residential, which has a 4-acre lot minimum, which would not have made sense for this small existing farm parcel. Here it is. You can see the house is close to the intersection, farm buildings, and then you have some other buildings that are related to the residential farmstead just to the south with the shared driveway. And here it is with the subject property detail, defining the new parcel for the zoning for the E2. Staff recommended stipulations. You can see water resources comments. I won't read these all, but Jody Welnick is here if you have any questions. The zoning would allow the existing farmland to be sold off from the remaining farmland, much like we typically do with an F1 rezoning. This did go to the Regional Planning Commission because the size of the lot being parceled off to maintain as much of the farmland as possible is less than the 4-acre minimum in the countryside estate land use area. So it did go to the Regional Planning Commission. They concurred that the smaller lot size was appropriate and recommended approval at their January 12th meeting. Zoning Board of Appeals met last week, and they recommend approval with the recommended stipulations, and it's before you this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. May we have a motion, please? Mr.
Kenyon
Kenyon
moves to
moves.
approve.
Mr. Fries seconds. I have one question. The conditions basically are a recital of existing obligations, are they not?
That's correct, to make the owner aware, because sometimes in these situations, we have additional E3 parcels that come off that same farmland that they would all be cumulative.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Bonnicki,
Yes.
Bras,
Guys, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Motion carries. The final petition before us is number 4590. Mr. Van Kerkhoff.
All right, thank you. Your last petition this morning is 4590 for Donald Blazing. This is requesting a reconfiguration of an existing R4 District 1 Family Residential Zone portion of a parcel to a R3 District 1 Family Residential, and reconfiguration of existing B3 Business District portion of the property, and for a special use for storage yards and buildings. The petitioner is also seeking variances from certain requirements regarding screening for parking closer to a lot line. This subject parcels for these reconfigurations are in Aurora Township in a pocket that is unincorporated. You can see the Oakhurst Forest Preserve just across the street and to the northeast. City of Aurora surrounds this pocket. This in the 2040 plan land use map is urban neighborhood mixed use infill, which does allow for residential and mixed business uses within the urban context. Here you see it on the zoning map. You can see a lot of that area is zoned R1. The particular pocket here with the subject parcel is surrounded by some F zone district parcels. And it's key to note in this case that the existing zoning on the parcel actually has 3 different zoning lots on the same parcel. R4 for a residential use that exists up near the street on Fifth Avenue, an existing B3 without a special use that exists in the midsection. And then the southernmost part of the property is still zoned F district farming as the surrounding lots are, which are mostly used for residential uses. And then you can see the very south end of the property butts up against homes that were approved and developed by the city of Aurora. Here you see it on the aerial, and you'll get a close-up, but you get a sense for the overall context. Here's a close-up again. You can see the existing they're proposing R3 and the B3 that roughly coincide with the existing uses. And here's a closer up. You can clearly see the residential use for which the new R3 is more appropriate than the previous zoning. And then the B3 with the special use allowing for the outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment. And then the balance of the southern part of the parcel would remain F district farming and thus would not be used for a business use or any parking of vehicles. Here's another close-up. Here's the current zoning configuration. You can see there's a little bit of overlap where the B3 is encroaching on where the existing single-family home is, and some of the B3 uses were encroaching in the F district area. So this will redefine and clean up the zoning lots with those existing uses. And here is a site plan. I do want to note that this petition is being brought forward by Donald Blazing, was owned by his father for many, many years. And this is a good example of cooperation by the family and the estate to clean up some of the issues that have existed on the property in the past. Here it is with the survey defining those zoning lots and clearly indicating the areas relative to the existing buildings and uses. It is kind of a close-up. There's a zoning parcel 3, which will be F district farming. So Kane County staff recommended stipulations, water resources. This neighborhood has historically experienced flooding issues. I want to commend Jody Welnick and her team for their work with our department and others in dealing with the drainage issues as well as the land use concerns. Stormwater permit, including detention B&P, would be required for any additional impervious area on the site, regardless of the size. A depressional storage along the east property line shall be maintained. No fill is allowed in this area. A flood route between the house and shop across the gravel axis shall be maintained, and no fencing allowed on the west property line between the house and the building. And these stipulations will make it very clear for future users of the property what can and can be done to help protect the existing drainage issues in this area. Division of Transportation would like a conveyance of a 33-foot right away from the center line of Fifth Avenue. Staff recommended findings of fact is that the reconfigurations through the rezonings will bring the existing and proposed uses into conformance with the zoning ordinance. And happy to answer any questions. I believe the petitioner may be available to answer questions as well, or Jody Welnick if there are around the drainage issues.
Thank you. May we have a motion, please?
Caius move.
Caius
Wonnicke
moves. Ms.
seconds.
Wonnicke seconds. I have a question. The multiple zonings on one parcel are not creating a circumstance where they can sell them off as separate parcels. Am I correct?
That's correct. This was being maintained as one single parcel. We have a few other locations in the county where there are multiple
Seen that
zoning
before.
lots.
That's why I was,
But if they were going to sell them off separately, they would need to go either use the Plat Act or go through a minor subdivision
well, there's all
process.
kinds of issues on access and everything else for the back two
Oh, yeah.
plats where they do it, but I just.
Correct. Yeah, at this point, they're not requesting that, but it
And
does.
and one last question of me, what was the nature of the objection? I think, wasn't there an objection from a neighboring property owner? All right, or wrong. I guess, yeah, area property owner was listed as an objector.
Yeah, my apologies. I was on vacation last week during the zoning hearing, so if Keith Burkout, are you on the line?
Keith,
Yes, I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
we can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking in the file now. Bear with me for a second. I believe was concern about the impact on property values. See if I have that with me here.
And just so I'm clear, the youths is in place, has been for years, and it's going to continue at its present intensity. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is that your final interpretation, Keith?
Yes, the gentleman lived in the south in that, I think it's called Hometown, that development to the south that's in the city of Aurora. And basically was concerned about the impact on property values in the area to have the business uses.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could add to that concern, this does help clean up and establish one of the issues that had been with the property. I'll go back to the aerial here. So one of the issues that we had with this property was the B3 uses and outdoor parking of trucks and equipment had spilled over onto the F district portion. In fact, it almost completely filled the area that will maintain the F district zoning. And working with our water resources and state's attorney's office and enforcement process, we did get that cleaned up. So the current zoning petition and clear establishment of that F district zone area not to be used in conjunction with the B3 business will keep that business use from getting any closer to the those homes in that subdivision than it currently exists, although it has been an issue in the past.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Cayos?
Yeah, I guess that was my question. I was just looking at the, my Google Maps of it, and it must be an older one. That was a concern I had, because there's vehicles or trailers all the way to the south end of that, the F1 section in the, at least on the Google Maps. So they have cleaned that up.
Yes, that's all been removed and the area restored because of the impact on drainage. Obviously, it was a illegal land use for that portion and had an impact on those residential homes, and that's been cleaned up. And the son's petition to further establish that what areas can be used for what will help maintain enforcement in the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Don Blazing is here today, and he was instrumental in cleaning up that area that his father had expanded into it. So I just want to express our appreciation to him as well.
Great.
Thank you. Ms. Winicky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a general comment with my King County Forest Preserve hat on. When you show that map, the large map in the beginning with the Oakhurst Forest Preserve, it's it's really good to see. It's like a breath of fresh air in a high-density urban neighborhood. And as a commissioner, I'm very proud of that. I think it looks great. Gives them a lot of open space and recreational activity.
Thank you. That's a great forest preserve.
Yeah. That's for Mavis if she's still on.
Anyone else?
New and improved.
Yeah.
Hearing no further comments. Clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Herman, yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Winnicki,
Yes.
Braz,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes, motion carries. Item C, we have someone offering us money.
Hey.
Be a highly contested vote, I'm sure.
Yeah, or probably more appropriately reoffering us money. We have over the last 3 rounds of grant funds available for reimbursement to our blighted structures fund. When we address the worst of the worst abandoned homes, we're able to seek a court order and to demolish. And we've been using riverboat funds for that for years. But about 7-8 years ago, we applied for funds from the state through their abandoned property program. And we've been successful now in 3 rounds of getting a total reimbursement allotment of up to $250,000 for the grant period to reimburse our expenses. So in other words, we haven't been back to the riverboat for more money to demolish blighted properties because we've been able to reimburse that fund through these grants. The state had a need to rebrand, restructure that those grant funds into a new program name. So we have been busy the last couple of weeks reapplying for the new program, terminating the old agreement, and are now approving and doing closing documents under the new grant program. So we're very pleased. It does ensure another up to $250,000 for reimbursing our riverboat fund that we use for this. But it's kind of a rebranding. So if it looks familiar to some of the board members who have seen this grant come through before, that's what it is, but we have to follow the same process. So this resolution basically accepts that grant to replace the previous funds under the previously named program. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. May we have a motion, please? Mr.
Berman
Kenyon?
moves.
Berman moves, Mr. Kenyon seconds. Do we have questions or comments?
Comment, sir.
Yes, sir.
This goes under the heading of a no-brainer. Because people in the neighborhood hope, get rid of a junk building next to you.
Any other?
Same
Mr. Caius?
ditto, worked well. When I was newly on the board, we had a property up in Algonquin that this served the perfect purpose for. And that property was rehabilitated and the neighbors enjoyed that it was cleaned up and salvaged.
I have a question. I think, I know we lien the properties we demolish or orchestrate such that if the property is sold, we get reimbursed. Do you have an offhand recollection? I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Do you have an offhand recollection of what the economics are to date on that? How much we've recovered from what we've spent?
Sure. So to date, I don't believe we've been able to recover any of the funds. None of the properties that we've liened have been sold. But we do place a lien on the property for the amount that the county spent on the demolition for those eligible funds. So when they do close, we would get reimbursed and those funds would go back into the riverboat funded fund for blighted properties. The really good aspect of this program is that most people realize, especially if it's a bank-owned property, that they can demolish it for less money than the county could. So a lot of times we go through the process of having it declared a blighted structure by the county board. Our state's attorney files the appropriate court documents, and then it gets either rehabilitated or torn down by the property owner before we even have an opportunity to, or the need to demolish it with county funds. So it's a great leverage program to get these properties cleaned up even without us having to spend the money. But if we do get to the point where we're going to have a court order and demolish it, we have the funds and we have the opportunity to have the funds replenished, reimbursed by the state. So it really is a great program that has cleaned up a lot of properties.
Thank you. I mean, I'll join the chorus. It's a great program. So, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Wonecki,
Yes.
Braz,
Raj, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Motion carries. Item 6, planning and special projects.
Okay, you have in your packet a general report of the activities of our planning team, many of which get reported to other committees, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or comments of Mr. Van Kerkhoff on the report? Hearing none, thank you very much. Subdivisions, we have a couple ordinances.
I have the first item under subdivisions, then I'll turn it over to Deanne. We are requesting an amendment to the county code, chapter 19 subdivisions, to revise the fees related to subdivision work. This, if you recall, was part of Joe Onsick's study that was recently completed. We've reviewed the task time and cost for our department to process the various aspects under the subdivision ordinance, and worked with his consultant to develop a revised fee schedule. The last time these fees were looked at was about 20 years ago. So we've included in your packet the old fees. They aren't apples for apples. We did rearrange the fees somewhat to reflect better how our department operates. And so we're requesting approval of this ordinance.
Wonecki moves.
Do we have a
Kenyon
second? Mr.
seconds.
Kenyon seconds. Do we have comments or questions? Hearing none. It's about time we did this. It's been 20 years. So good, we're moving ahead. And I think it's important to the citizens of the county that we in fact benefit from people who are economically benefiting from their activity in the county and that those costs be reimbursed. So that having been said, so there's no other comments, clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Wonecki,
Yes.
Braz,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, Shepro.
Mr. Shepro, you're recognized.
I just, quick question about that. I seem to recall that long ago, which is the last time I probably paid attention to it, the fees were payable at the end of the process. And I wondered if that was still true.
Deanne Orlick, I'll go ahead and answer that question. The fees are paid as they go through the process. So in other words, say a subdivision does not gain approval and won't go past the concept plan. We certainly don't want those fees lingering out there for someone to have paid them and then be having to get reimbursed from the county. So, and not only that, but changes frequently occur after the concept plan. It may end up being perhaps a 4-lot subdivision instead of a 2-lot or something along that line. So it's hard to determine some of those fees up front. We kind of provide people with a worst case scenario as they step through the process, but they're kind of paid as you go.
But for example, a concept plan, do you pay $750 when you submit your concept plan or when it is approved?
You pay it for each submittal because a concept plan is per submittal. So if it takes a few efforts to get that concept plan through this meeting right here, you'll have to reapply and come in with a revised plan based on comments that were received. Now, once you get past the concept plan and go into, say, a preliminary plan, the issues are pretty ironed out and it may be more of a formality at that point in time. So that's a little more steady. So that's only a single payment for the preliminary plan. Now, if the preliminary plan ends up coming in and has to have 5, 6 revisions on it, we do have a mechanism in which we can recoup some of those costs for re-reviewing plans.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Deer Pond Wood. Oh, wait, we haven't voted yet. Any other comments?
I think you did vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I got confused by your question.
I didn't get my question in time and you graciously allowed me to ask it anyway.
So you were out of order.
All right.
I shouldn't have allowed that.
You shouldn't.
Now let's talk about Deer Pond Woods.
Good morning, everyone. We're over in Deer Pond Woods today for a couple of the next items on the agenda. They are both easements, vacations of easements and dedications of new easements. If you'll recall, Deer Pond Woods is over off of Randall and there's Red Gate Road up here. We're down in this area of Deer Pond Woods today. We're in lots 11 and 10 in Deer Pond Woods. Lot 11 is desiring to acquire a bit more space from lot 10 because their driveway does not fit on their proposed site plan. So lot 10, the owners of lot 10 and lot 11 have agreed to go ahead and vacate the easement that lies along that property line, move the property line, and then rededicate easements as they need to, so they'll each have enough area on their parcel to construct the proposed home sites. So this amendment does not increase density. It's been approved by all the neighbors as well as jurisdictions. Following approval today, the Plat Act will realign that property line. And for your information, Mr. Ziegler's in the auditorium if you have questions for him.
Thank you, Mr. Fries.
Fries moves.
Second,
Caius?
Mr. Kaya seconds. Mr. Fries, comments.
Yeah, I'm real familiar with this development. They're very large lots. If you look at it, you know, our minimum lot size for well and septic's 1.25 acres, and these are either double or close to double that. So there's plenty of room to work with here. And actually the revised lot line lines up better with the tree line, and it actually balances those front lot lines a little bit, squares them up and so forth. So no opposition from neighbors, and I strongly endorse this.
Anybody else? Hearing no further comments. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Brown, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Wonicky,
Yes.
Fries,
Braz,
yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Motion is approved. Ordinance is approved. Deer Pond Woods, lots 20 and 21.
We're jumping across the street. We're still over in Deer Pond Woods. Now we're at 20 and 21, which is literally right across the street. The horizontal red line in here is a township line. So that's not really a line that we're working with in this instance. It's simply a township line. But there is one owner of lots 21 and 20. The existing property line that runs through there has easements on it, and he would like to vacate those easements so that he can build a single family residence on both of the parcels and not be encumbered by the easement running through the middle of this lots. So want to call attention, let me back up a couple here. On the westerly portion of lot 20, in this area right here, you can see that it's heavily treed, heavily vegetated. There is a conservation easement that lies within that area. That easement is not going to be altered. That easement and that conservation easement for the wetland will remain in place. We are simply removing the utility easement that is running along the property lines that are adjoining each lots 20 and 21. So once again, this doesn't increase density in any form. It's been agreed to by all jurisdictions as well as the neighbors, and Mr. Ziegler has not yet ran out, so he's still here if you have questions.
Fraz moves.
Mr. Fraz moves, Ms.
Woznicki,
Winnicki seconds. Do we have comments or questions? Barb?
A quick question for Mr. Ziegler, or who holds who put the conservation easement on there to begin with, and who holds the easement?
The conservation easement was put on during, when I developed the property.
Okay, and you hold the easement. Okay, good. Thank you.
It's been 17 years ago, so we've been sitting on it for a while.
A little bit ago.
And Mr. Chairman, this,
Go
so
ahead.
it's just one house on two lots? Is that what?
Yeah.
Correct.
Mr. Fraz?
So yeah, we have precedent across the street. I believe they combined 3 lots into one right across the street. And as I said previously, these are large lots with lots of open space, low density. And with what was done across the street and what's being done on this lot, it actually lowers the units per acre. So it lowers the density of the development. So pretty straightforward.
Anything else? Hearing nothing.
Good, thank you.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Wodnicki,
Yes.
Fraz,
Fraz, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Do we have anything from environmental resources
Not this month, or water resources.
or water? So, Mr. Berger, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent. So the first item we have for you today involves our work to address the needs of the homeless population. And the item begins on page 95 of your packet. You might recall that Optimum Management Resources has provided consulting services to our continuum of care for several years now. Basically, they assist us in securing federal funding to support a variety of projects, including supportive housing projects up and down the Fox Valley, our homeless management information system, otherwise known as HMIS, as well as our planning funds that support the administrative expenses associated with our continuum of care. Every few years, we do conduct an RFP for these services, and we recently did just that. We received one proposal from Optimum Management Resources. Staff reviewed the proposal and found the firm to be well qualified and experienced, and the budget proposed to be fair and cost reasonable. So at this time, we are recommending you authorize a 1-year contract with the firm in an amount not to exceed $30,000. And just a reminder, 100% of the costs associated with this action are covered with federal funding. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Kenyon moves.
Ford, seconds.
Mr. Ford seconds. Do we have comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Wodnicki,
Yes.
Fraz,
Fraz, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Resolution is approved. Item B.
Okay, the second item we have for you begins on page 100 of your packet. It's largely a housekeeping item. It involves reestablishing a line of credit with the county to cover our office's expenses while we await federal reimbursement. It does change the amount from $600,000 to $1.2 million. This is an acknowledgement of the fact that our office has taken on considerably more awards than we are normally accustomed to. We have been working with the finance department on this, and they have given their consent to this action item. So at this time, we're recommending you send this resolution on to the finance committee.
And we have a motion, please.
Caius move.
Mr. Caius
Second by
moves.
Kenyon.
Mr. Kenyon seconds. Do we have comments or questions? This is essentially a line of credit here to keep life moving while we're waiting for payment from the government. Hearing no further comment, would clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Wodnicki,
Yes.
Fraz,
Fraz, yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. Motion carries. Is there any new business to be brought before the committee this morning?
Yes, we have the description of the development committee itself that's located in chapter 2, section 48-2 of the county code. I can just give a little bit of background here. The description that's currently in the code is also in your packet. And you'll notice that that description was written prior to the E&E committee being developed. So the entire description of E&E committee is in the current version. In addition to that, we noticed that Scott Berger's department was not listed in the description at all. So between Mr. Berger, Mr. Van Kerkhoff, and myself, we looked into revising it to reflect the actual activities of this committee. It is noted that this is defined as our parent committee as directors. So this committee would be the location where any wage increases or disciplinary action for the 3 directors I just listed would occur. So this is a draft version. We're not asking for any action today. It's for your review if you have any questions or comments. And I'll open it up to Mr. Berger and Mr. Van Kerkhoff if they have additional comments.
Do we have comments or questions today? As you'll all recall, this is completion of the assignment that all of the committees and their respective departments put together descriptions that bring them into compliance with reality. So are there any comments? Ma'am, I thank you for the effort. There's a lot of activity under one umbrella here, so. Mr. Shepro, you don't want to redraft?
Don't encourage.
You looking for trouble, aren't you? He's not awake.
Well, what I would ask everybody to do is to take one last run at these yourself, and if you have questions, contact the relevant person among the troika who put this together. It's good to have reality reflect what we really, or the text reflect reality. So I'm pleased with the effort, and thank you again for having done it. Anything else? Thank you. And we have a motion to place reports on file.
Fries moves.
Kai second.
Kyle seconds. Comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Iqbal,
Iqbal, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Winnicki,
Yes.
Braz,
Fries, yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes. We have no need for executive session, and we have the Kenyon motion, please.
Kenyon, motion to adjourn.
They were-
Mr. Sturgis should notice how these 2 committees conduct their business quickly.
And we have
second.
Berman seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
It's over half an hour every day.